let's just jump into what you saw on the screen from the guys who spun it and what your impressions are of the quarterbacks that were active on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I'd start with this, Rich. I'm not a massive combine throw person and really not a massive pro day throw person. I think the tape for me is always what stands out. But unless a guy is so impressive throwing the football that it's such a overwhelming positive takeaway, I think Michael Penix, the ball just comes off of his hands differently. I think the ball jumps out of his hand, and if you for Michael, it's like this journey of, well, I had 2 awesome seasons in a row at Washington where I threw for almost 10,000 yards and 75 plus touchdowns. So great. And then you go through the process of, combine, and 2 really things for him that are important are how he threw the football, because if you do it better and differently than anybody else that's there, now those top 3 guys didn't throw, but he threw it better than anybody else at the combine. And then from all things that I've heard, the medical went really well. So I think that was a really big weekend for Michael Penix. I'll use your guy, and I don't want to say your guy, but obviously Michigan alum, J.J. McCarthy. I couldn't care less that he had incompletions at the combine. I love the fact that he went out there and threw it hard, shut off his arm. I think that's one of his underrated assets and skills. So, the variance of those guys, it's great that Michael stood out in that regard. It doesn't make me think anything differently and or less of JJ that he had some incompletions.
So then let's get to the guys as a group then, removing what we saw over the weekend. Are you still a Jayden Daniels is the best quarterback available in the draft guy, Dan?
Yeah, I am. After, watching, I don't like to say anything about these guys unless I've watched all of their snaps in totality. The only 3 that I've done in totality are Caleb, Jayden, and Drake May. After watching all that, I would take Jayden number 1. I think the 3 things that make it stand out for me are, number 1, I think his ball placement versus man coverage is the best in the draft. We see that in the NFL on a consistent basis. We're starting to see more and more of it. When I say, this is why I say, Rich, every quarterback in the NFL is accurate. It's the NFL. There's 60 people on the planet that have those jobs. Everybody's accurate. Accuracy is throwing it to your guy. Ball placement, throwing it away from the defense. He's got the best on tape. Number 2, evaluating this class is the hardest since I've gotten into this job for me, because it's either things are made so difficult by some of these offenses that are, and I know Kurt had mentioned this, it's so difficult to evaluate, like, what is this? Or they make it so easy. So the number 2 thing is, when your offense and you as a pass game generate these explosive plays, what does it actually look like? Are you getting 4 or 5 20-plus yard completions in college football because you threw a bubble out to the right, or you had some trick play, or you ran around for 9 seconds and threw a ball down wide open to a guy in the NFL? We know that's not real life, or downfield, excuse me. So what does it look like? And he's got the most, I see you throw that post-cross concept, or I saw you throw 4 verticals and you rip that seam. Most transferable stuff to the NFL. And then I think the third thing is pocket peace. I think Caleb has tremendous pocket reaction, and his pocket suddenness is really good. Jayden has just this calm, this peace, this subtlety movement-wise that I think is different than the others as well. So I would go Jayden 1. I think that he plays faster, both mentally and physically. So often 1, 2, 3, ball comes out of his hands. We know that, and I think one of the things that I've learned, Rich, over the past couple of years of just doing this with the college kids and, watching the NFL guys is, kind of the state of the NFL quarterback wise is you really win making a ton of pars and then occasionally dropping birdies or an eagle. That's what Patrick did this last year. And I think Jayden does that as well. And then I would do Caleb too. Tremendously talented. I see some of the stuff that I talked about with Jayden. The ball placement versus man isn't always perfect. Now, I don't think USC was super talented on the outside. I thought their offensive line was poor. You don't have a lot of examples of like 1, 2, 3 ball out, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ball out, and and the suddenness and the quick twitch of that and the the shortstop play of that. Not a ton of examples this year on tape. Again, I think it's a little bit because of what's around him. Tremendous playmaker. I think, Rich, I'll say this. I think he's a tremendous talent. That Notre Dame game is a tough game to look at. Real NFL defenses. Al Golden dialed it up for Notre Dame, and Notre Dame created some pressure, and I think that's a game where if I was Chicago or Washington or New England, I would want that would be the first game I would watch with him, and I would sit there and just watch that with him, and I would kind of take in everything that he's regurgitating.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.